So the first thing you need to know is that all of you are in the system already. Unless you're brand new and you came in the last 2 months, you have an account already. So when you get to the Canvas page, like it's going to look like this, you need to log in. You see the black login? Once you hit the login button, you're going to put, you're going to say lost your password and it's going to ask you for your email. Use the email that you use when you joined Canvas. Okay? If you use that email and it doesn't work for you, then send me a personal WhatsApp with the email that you used. And if you want to use that one instead, I can switch it. Okay? Don't send me the text message saying I didn't let me in. You have to show me the email that you tried to use. So once you do that, I'll send you a password reset. Now that we're past that, we're in here. Okay. Once you sign in, if you speak Spanish better than English, you can come here and hit this button and it switches everything to Spanish instead of English. Okay. Y así puedes copiar las cosas. This is the console. This is where you're going to be asking questions. But you also have a contract trainer and you have a commercial real estate and letter of intent page. If you have never written a contract before, you can come to the contract trainer. You can come to the contract trainer and tell it to start at line 1. Oops. See, there you go. That could be a problem. I need to check that out. But once you start here, it'll be line 1. You would hit next and it'll go, oh, look, there's an error here. I'll get back to you on the contract trainer. I changed something else, so it might have affected this. And then the other one is the CRE and LOI. Oh, that could be that it's asking me to sign in again. So don't think that that's an error. So here with the CRE, it'll teach you where to find commercial real estate, the rules to commercial real estate. And at the very end, there's a place for you to write a letter of intent. Okay. It goes clause by clause, all the things that you need to put in so that you have somewhere to go and start the process. The reason for CANVAS Playbook is that we want you to be able to keep moving. If you sit and wait for an answer for something that you need, you're not getting things done. You're losing time to make an offer. Your customer might start becoming scared that you're not doing things correctly. This is a good place to go and start getting your answers. The other thing is there's quite a few people in this company that are designated for answering questions in the chats. If one person comes in and says, I'm writing a contract and I'm on section 26 and I'm not sure about whether to pick this or that, you're going to get a response a lot faster than someone that writes, I'm writing a contract and I need help. That's not going to be the same thing. If you're writing a contract and you need help, hopefully at one point you decided to start learning how to write a contract, not when you finally have a buyer, right? You should probably know how to write a contract before you even take somebody out on a property. Why? Because when you take somebody to see properties and they start liking something, they're going to ask you questions about the process. Can I cancel if I change my mind? How long do I need how long do I have before I can give you the deposit? Can I break the deposit in 2 parts? What's the inspection period and what am I allowed to do? Things like that. If you know the contract, you can answer those questions. And if you're being interviewed to go see properties and you don't have those answers, you need to go look them up. It's a problem. Unless you have CANVAS Playbook in front of you and you can answer those questions while they're on the phone, right? So let's go back to the console. This is a brand new thing. And the reason that we need you guys to use it, besides the fact that it's going to be better for you, the console's done really well. But if something comes up and you feel that it could be better, we want you to tell us. Write me directly and say, Joaquin, I asked this question. I got an answer that I don't think was correct. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you could improve this. The other day, Ro brought up something that had to do with Section 8 housing and just Fair Housing Act in general. So we wrote a post just for that, but we also wrote more details into what makes this work. Okay. If you were to go on AI and write a question, it's going to answer you in a very stereotype. It's going to give you a stereotype of an answer. It's going to go out there and look for different responses and bring you back like an average, let's say. This is written specifically for a South Florida real estate agent that works at Canvas, because built into this are the rules Canvas works with. So if you ask a question here, you're getting a response that would have come from somebody in the office. Now, and this is what I was talking about before. If you ask the question here and you get an answer and you're still not sure if that's the right answer, you're going to ask a better question than you would have before. So remember that the people that are monitoring this, not monitoring this, we're not monitoring this. If you're in WhatsApp and you write, I have a question, somebody answer this, you're not going to get it unless you ask the question specifically. And I have seen many times where somebody in the chat responds that is totally wrong. Okay. And then I've had to answer that person privately and then told the person that gave the wrong information privately that that was wrong. So going back to here. So to what I'm going to do today, I already showed you how to sign in. You're here. You could pick what kind of question you're going to ask if you want. But the system is set up to look at your question and decide for you if you don't. Okay. So I wrote a bunch of questions in advance. And the first one that I got here, it says, my buyer, let's write it in here. It says, my buyer wants to compete against 6 other offers, but doesn't want to overpay. What strategies can I use besides simply raising the purchase price? Okay. I was trying to get questions that aren't typical. Like, how do you what's the first, how do I, what contract do I use to write a contract or something like that? So I'm going to hit go and you see your question pops up here. And then one of the other things that happens here, and this is very important. If you use this, we're not keeping the memory of your conversation with the Canvas Playbook. It's not in our memory. It's in the memory of the device that you're using. So for instance, I'm on my laptop right now. If I switch to my cell phone, it's not going to show up. It won't be there. So you have to stay on the same, and that might change soon because you have your own account. But we're trying to do that so that you're not shy about coming in and using it. So let's go back to the question. My buyer wants to compete against 6 other offers, but doesn't want to overpay. What strategies can I use besides simply raising the purchase price, right? So to make your buyer offer more competitive, you can put in an escalation clause. You could put a larger earnest money deposit, flexible closing date, and you could see that there's an explanation of everything. Waive your contingencies, right? If feasible, and after careful consideration, your buyer might waive certain contingencies like financing or inspection, though this carries risk and should be approached cautiously, right? So you have all these explanations. Now, I bet you that most of the people on here have never had to use an escalation clause. So let's say that you get to that and you say, well, let's say, how do I use an escalation clause? And by the way, if you guys have a question out there, you could let me know that you're going to put one in the chat and I'll go check. So here we go. An escalation clause is used in a competitive bidding situation to automatically increase your buyer's offer in response to competing offers. Here's how to use it. Determine the increment. So decide on the amount of which your offer will increase on any competing offer. So what happens here, if somebody else makes an offer, your offer will automatically go from 1,000 to 5,000 in this situation, let's say, automatically over the other offer that's been made. That's called an escalation clause. You can set a maximum price that you would go to, include the clause in the offer. Guys, make sure you're muted, please. Include the clause in the offer, clearly state the escalation clause, proof of competing offers. You don't want somebody to say, oh no, we got another offer, so yours is automatically this. You need to see the other offer. You need proof. Consult with legal counsel, right? Consider having clause reviewed by legal counsel to ensure it's properly drafted and enforceable. This strategy allows your buyer to remain competitive without initially offering their maximum price. So do you see, you can ask a question and then from there, continue the conversation. So cover appraised gap, right? Offer to cover any appraisal gap, ensuring the seller receives the agreed price. You can now ask it, give me an idea of how I would cover the appraisal gap. This is how you can learn on your own without waiting for somebody to answer you, okay? Most of the time, for those of you who haven't gotten there yet, you're going to have to write an offer on a Saturday or Sunday evening, and you're not going to find somebody that's going to call you in a couple of minutes. You need to start somewhere. And like I said before, you should be learning this before you get to that point. So let's go back. Let's look for another question. Does anybody have a question about this or any comments they'd like to add? No? Okay. So another question. My seller insists that the property is worth $50,000 more than every comparable sale. How do I explain the market using data? All right, let's go in here and type the question. If you notice, some of these come back very quickly and some of them take a couple minutes, right? Well, that came pretty fast anyway. Hold on. To explain the market to your seller without offending them, use a data-driven approach combined with empathetic communication. Present comparable sales, which the question says that they kind of already did. Market trends, share current market trends, including average days on market, list the sale price ratios, and any recent changes in buyer demand. Objective metrics, discuss objective metrics such as price per square foot, which can provide clear comparison to the properties. Highlight buyer perspective, right? Which is what's the buyer's perspective when they're coming in to make an offer. Discuss potential consequences, offer a test period, maintain empathy, right? So it's giving you not only the strategy, but it's telling you, hey, keep empathy, acknowledge the seller's attachment to their property, and express your understanding of their perspective, reinforcing your role as a partner in achieving their goals, right? That's okay. So you got that, right? Maintain empathy, great strategy. Now, from here, you can ask another question if you'd like from what was given to you. You've already seen that, but we're going to go on to another question. Transaction desk, right? So one of the things that we've incorporated into this is the transaction desk. We incorporated what forms are used with each type of deal so that if you're not sure, you can ask. So let's see, what's the next question? My seller insisted, nope, that's not the question. That's not the one I wanted to copy. I accidentally sent a document for signatures with the wrong purchase price. What is the proper way to correct it in TransactionDesk without creating confusion? Has that anybody had that happen to them? To correct the document with the wrong purchase price in TransactionDesk without creating confusion, follow these steps. Void the incorrect document. If the document has already been sent for signatures, void it to prevent any accidental signing. This can usually be done by accessing the document in TransactionDesk and selecting the option to void or cancel it. Correct the error. Open the original document, correct the purchase price, save the changes, create a new signing session. So you see, this goes in and explains TransactionDesk for you. Why? Because this is not a typical exchange with AI. This has, so that you have an idea, a prompt that your question gets filtered through that's 5 pages long at this point. And it's probably going to keep getting longer, maybe shorter if we find some things weren't necessary. But this is going through a filter. So it knows we use TransactionDesk, so it's ready for TransactionDesk questions. It knows policy in the office, so it's using that as well. Okay. So I'm not going to keep going through this because I'd rather keep asking it more questions. I hope that you agree with me. Right? Okay, here's another one. That's actually a good one. I haven't seen all of these yet. The appraisal came in $20,000 below the contract price. What options do the buyer and seller have under the Florida FAR bar contracts? Let's go, right? Under the Florida FAR bar contract, if the appraisal comes in below the contract price, the buyer and seller have several options. Renegotiate the purchase price, buyer covers the appraisal gap, cancel the contract, seller financing, the seller might offer to finance the difference or a portion of it to keep the deal moving forward, challenge the appraisal, the buyer can request a reconsideration of value from the appraiser or order a second appraisal. Through this process can be time consuming and does not guarantee a different outcome. Each option depends on the specific terms of the contract and the willingness of both parties to negotiate, right? Now, if you said, okay, what do you mean seller financing? Then you could ask it. What do you mean seller? Let's ask it. Let's ask. Let's say how would we approach seller financing? Now, so far we've gotten great answers on these, right? Okay, discuss with the seller. Determine if the seller is open to offering financing. This typically involves the seller acting as the lender, following the buyer to make payments directly to them. This is really a dramatic, to me, wouldn't be a great solution. I thought it was going to ask about a second mortgage financed by the seller. And maybe that's where it was going originally. Outline the terms, draft a promissory note, secure the loan. See, this is a correct answer for the seller financing, but I don't know if it would have bridged the gap of the original question, right? So we could tighten the question a little bit. Instead of saying, how would we approach seller financing? We would ask, how would we approach seller financing on the gap of the appraisal and the purchase price? That could have been a better question. But from here, if you were to say, okay, I got an answer, but I'm not sure about it. Now, if you can now contact your lender. You can call your CMG guy and say, hey, listen, we have a difference here, which they already know. And you can ask them, what about seller financing? Or what can we do with that? And they might be able to do something like that. That would be a combo loan with the seller holding the second, right? Let's go to another question. My buyer wants to terminate during the inspection period because they simply changed their mind. Can they recover the deposit? This is an easy question. I hope all of you know this one. But let's put it in here anyway. You see, it's a short, sweet answer. Yes, if your buyer is within the inspection period as specified in the Florida FAR bar contract, they can terminate the contract for any reason, including simply changing their mind. It actually says at the buyer's sole discretion. So changing their mind upon termination with this period, the buyer is typically entitled to a refund of their earnest money deposits. Ensure that the termination notice is provided in writing and delivered before the inspection period expires to secure the return of the deposits. Okay, that was an easy one. Let's look for complicated ones. The seller accepted an offer and now received a better one. What can they legally do? This happens. Hopefully you're the listing agent, but that's also nerve-wracking. Once a seller has accepted an offer and the contract is fully executed, they are legally bound to the agreement. The seller cannot accept another offer unless the original contract is terminated or fails to close under its terms. If the seller wishes to pursue the better offer, they would need the buyer to agree to cancel the existing contract which may involve negotiations or incentives. Otherwise, the seller must proceed with the original contract. That is the correct answer. For that one, I would probably reach out to Ernesto. My buyer wants to purchase a property with an FHA loan, but the condominium isn't FHA approved. What alternatives should I discuss? Do we want to answer that question? Let's go look. If you have an FHA loan, you probably shouldn't be looking at condos to begin with, right? But yes, look, you can. And this is a question again for a CMG agent. You can ask them to check to see if that condo at any point was FHA approved or if it could be FHA approved. But again, if you have an FHA buyer, the chances of you going in looking at condos, unless you didn't know, right? This is not something that you should do. However, if you have a listing that's in a condo, you should check this out. Whenever you have a listing that's a condo, you should be checking all the financing that's available for it, right? Sit down with your CMG guy and say, hey, what can we use? What can we use here? Is it 25% down? Can we do a combo loan? Is it FHA? Can VA come in here? And so on. And by the way, I don't know if you've noticed, but whenever you get an answer, you can come up here and copy it so that you can paste it into something else. So if you ask for something like an addendum or an email or a text that you need help with, it'll do it for you there, and you can copy it. The inspection uncovered. Let's bring it over here. The inspection uncovered about $15,000 in repairs. Should my buyer ask for a credit, a price reduction, repairs before closing, or something else? This is a question that comes up a lot with a newer agent. Because usually that's something that you would ask your buyer what they wanted to do and then give them weigh the different options as you're negotiating. Your buyer has several options to address the $15,000 in repairs uncovered during the inspection. Request a repair credit. You can ask the seller. Negotiate a price reduction. Request repairs before closing. All right. Ask the seller to complete the necessary repairs. Combination approach. Consider a mix of the above options, such as a partial credit and some repairs done before closing. This is going to, if you've been once you've done this a few times, you're gonna see that once you see that it, like, let's say a $15,000 option comes up and you would start asking for that money, things start to fall into place. You're gonna see the intention of the seller if they just want to get out of there, agreeing to things quicker. So this is a good answer because it gives you all your options. But I would tell you to keep your ear to the ground, right? Difficult research question. Let's see what this one says. My customer asked whether the neighborhood has had flooding, major insurance claims, crime issues, future road projects, and whether property values are expected to increase over the next 5 years. Where do I start researching all of that? Flooding and insurance claims, check FEMA's flood map. Crime issues, use local police department websites or crime mapping services. Future road projects, contact the city or local county planning. Property values, review historical sales and data market trends through the MLS, or I can't believe it said, I should put something in here that says never use the word Zillow. You would use RPR for that to see trends and so on. But yeah, Zillow got in there. I'm going to do a recap here for a second, but I want to discuss really quick how to get in here again. Well, let's do this last question. Okay. I have a buyer interested in a home. Before I even schedule the showing, what are the 20 things I should research so I can sound like the most knowledgeable agent they have ever worked with? Well, if they're first-time home buyers, you are the most knowledgeable agent they've ever talked to. but let's not count on that. Let's see what we can do to improve ourselves. Property details, gather comprehensive information, property history, neighborhood overview, school districts, market trends, comparable sales. So yeah, if you know the area where they're going to want to buy, you should know these things as much as you can. I would stay away from telling people crime statistics. I would point them in the direction of getting that information because it's it's very complicated, but that's, I think, in my opinion, is the best thing you should do, right? Future developments, environmental concerns, utility providers, those things you should be able to do really quickly. So we've gone through questions. I don't know if anybody has a question that they want to share. If you do, raise your hand, put it in the chat, send it to me privately on WhatsApp. What I wanted to do, is again refresh your memory or let you know how to get in here. For those of you who haven't been here yet, you're going to go to CANVAS Playbook, right? Once you get here, you're going to log in. When you click on login, it's going to ask you for your username or email address. Use the email address that you used when you signed up with CANVAS. If you use it and it says there is no account on record for that email, send me that email that you used, and I will either switch it to the one that you do have or create an account with it. Okay? Once you sign in, this is where you're going to be. And I know a lot of you joined in late. So this is, once you get here, you see, and by the way, did you notice that none of the questions are here anymore? They're gone. They're not in memory, right? Because I got out and got back in. And I did tell you guys that you have Spanish up here. Español. On Monday, we're doing this all over again at 2:00 in Spanish. En español. Does anybody have a question out there? Are you all really out there?
I have a question. So I never created an account apparently using the Canvas email address. Does it have to be the Canvas email address?
No. What we did was we took the roster, the entire roster that we have now, and just put it in as users. So your whatever email you get email from Canvas, unless they gave you they give you a Canvas RE email. But if you gave, and this is what happens, a lot of people sign up and then later they open up their real estate Gmail account. You probably have the original that you gave them when you signed up. And if you don't want that, you can say, I tried to log in with this email and I didn't get accepted. And now what I'll do is I'll go to your account, change your old email for the new one, and send you a password reset. So unless you joined less than 2 months ago, everybody should be listed as a user already. And I'm proud to say that a lot of you are using this because this month I think it was close to 150. It doesn't count admins. It doesn't count us at all. But I think we had about 150 people go in and use it 250 something times. So some of you used it once and some of you used it more than once. Did I answer your question, Robin?
Yes, you did. I found the email address that you entered.
Okay.
Hey, I have a question.
Shoot.
What was you said to go ahead and like press forget password if it's the first time logging in?
Yes, because the password is automatically generated for you, and obviously you need to put your own in. So when you first sign in, it'll send you an email saying to reset. When you go check it, see if it's in your spam filter. It shouldn't be because we're using Outlook for email.
Okay, let me try that now. Thank you.
Okay, and you'll find me in any of the groups. I'm in all the groups except for Boca for some reason. But if you find me, you can just send me an email, not an email, a WhatsApp privately, and say I tried to get in with this email or I couldn't get in, and just give me your info so I can find you.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right. I'm going to stop sharing right now.
Joaquin, I lost my way. All I see is the participants' faces, and when I'm on my phone, I didn't see exactly where you went
Okay,
on
so it's canvasplaybook.com,
CANVASPlaybook.com. Okay.
and you're going to see the consoles there, but it says login in the top right corner.
Okay. Got it.
And then, and I know for you, Joel, you wouldn't need this, but for the rest of you, the contract trainer, I think I had an issue because it was making people sign in for everything that you were going to use. And it should have been now where you sign in once and everything is accessible. But I think the contract trainer didn't pass over. So it works perfectly, but I didn't get in now, and I'm not going to make you guys suffer watching me go through that.
Joaquin, I'm curious. So, how is this getting built? As like, how are the answers being inputted, or you
So
ask random questions? And just curious.
yeah, no, I'm glad you're asking. So this is and we've actually been working on this since I think December. But
Okay.
we at one point we had too many guardrails. So every time you asked a question, there would be like 5 warnings. And we didn't want that. We don't want people to freak out every time they ask a question. So if you were to go in there and ask a question that had to do with an addendum, which we didn't do, after the addendum, it'll tell you, listen, check with your broker before you submit this, or this is not legal advice. So now we've gotten down, but what we've been doing is trial and error. And
Okay.
there's a prompt behind all of this. So before this goes to the AI and asks the question, it's putting it through a filter of um, it's like a litmus test. It's trying to figure out, is this a legal question? Is this a strategy question? And then it goes to AI and brings back the answer.
Now, how can we submit questions for it to be added to
No, just
the
ask a
platform?
question. And if you don't get we definitely want that. If you ask a question and you don't get an answer that you're comfortable with, at the bottom of each page, there's a place that says, it's basically my WhatsApp, but it's for a secondary phone. And you just put your concern there and it'll come to me.
Okay, cool.
And every time you guys tell me something's not you're not happy with something and I make a correction, I let everybody know it was you, unless you want to remain private, because we want people to know that people are using this.
Cool.
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Going once, going twice? I see some very talkative people not saying anything today. Are you guys cooking? No, it's only 2:30. So if that's it, if nobody has any other questions, I think we're set. We're done. Those of you who speak Spanish or want to, on Tuesday we can do this again. I'm going to keep putting things out there. I don't know if some of you have noticed in the chats, when somebody asks a question, I'm trying to get to CANVAS Playbook first to respond so that we can see what the response is. And that's exactly how we're making this a better system. And there's more stuff coming down the pike. Let me see, newer agents message you the email to have access. Yes, do that. Marlo, I think you came in after if you came in after, I would say March, your ID is not in there. So you could just send me your full name, your email address, and I'll create an account for you. You have a question, Robin?
I do. Thank you. At the bottom, just to be clear, so you have Playbook, Contract Trainer, and CRE plus LOI.
Yes.
So Playbook is real estate questions.
Yes.
Contract Trainer is how to fill out a contract, or where do I
Yes.
find something in TransactionDesk, maybe?
No, everything that has to do with TransactionDesk questions, you just ask the first part. And then the trainer, I'm having a password issue. That's why it didn't come up. When it says oops, it's because you're not signed in. But I am signed in, and it gave me oops because I set something. It's technicalities. All right. So if I would have signed out and then hit contract trainer, it would have let me in. And what I'm going to be doing is doing some training videos and just dropping them in here every once in a while.
Okay, so transaction desk questions are in Playbook.
Yes,
And then CRE plus LOI is commercial?
that's and if you guys want me to go up to Coral Springs and do this class, I did a commercial class on everything from where to find properties, how to speak the language, um, and how to write a letter of intent. And what I've been doing now, instead of having a PDF or a slideshow, is that whenever I do a class, I'm creating a page so that when I leave that office, they have the page available to go back and see everything I spoke of. It also keeps me on track. You guys know that I start drifting when I'm doing classes. So that's helped me stay on track.
So I have a question regarding the CRE plus the LOI. I have an idea for a business that I wanted to put together some options to help make it lower cost wise regarding the real estate. I could ask those specific questions for ideas in there.
No, that page is just a static page with drop-down menus on how to find commercial real estate.
Got it. Got it. So I'll stick with my traditional AI for
Yes.
the idea generator.
There are more tools coming to this. The next tool I put in, I'm not sure I'm going to do it yet. I'm going to talk to Ernesto. Might be the role playing. I know some of you have seen the role playing on my website. I actually just changed the robot voice to a natural voice, including if you speak to it in Spanish, it's a Colombian woman, and when you hear it answer you and you hear it in that tone, you feel like you're talking to a customer in South Florida. So we might bring that to CANVAS Playbook. I'm pretty sure it's going to be there because with Ernesto, if you go, hey, you want, and he says yes. So that's it. That's a wrap. Have a great weekend, guys. Thank you for being here on a Friday at this time. I didn't expect that this many people, but I appreciate you. Have a great weekend. Take care, guys.
You.
You're welcome.